Hey guys, Foxdrop here, the video on the top 7 junglers in the current patch, patch 6.13, and also looking on to the next patch, patch 6.14. Why are we doing 7 junglers for this video? It seems like a very strange number to do. Well, firstly 7 is my lucky number, but also because there are 7 top junglers and I don't really feel comfortable putting them in a top 5 list and cutting some of them out, so we'll just go with 7 for now. In this video we'll not only be taking a look at who are the best junglers obviously, but we'll also be telling you how to play them so you can pick them up and take them into your ranked game and abuse them for that free elo. I also have full gameplays out on pretty much every one of these junglers on this list, so if you want to see them in action in more detail then check them out on my channel. This is a video being made in partnership with our lovely friends over at Pro Guides, their website which help you become better players. They also have a nifty service which allows you to communicate directly with very good players, ask them questions in real time so they can help you out. And I'll put links to them down below in the description, but at any rate, let's get right into it, starting with our first jungler on this list, Graves. Graves is a bit of a unique one because he is a very good early game champion, but unlike most other early game junglers, he doesn't achieve that by destroying the enemy team in ganks. What Graves does well is actually controlling the game and controlling the jungle. So Graves is very good at invading, very good at bullying the enemy jungler, he's good at counter jungling as well, but he's also good about playing around objectives. Basically, if you're playing Graves, what should end up happening is that the enemy jungler won't really be able to do what they want to do without you having a say in what it is that they're doing. He's also quite unique in the sense that he doesn't really fit like a criteria that other junglers would also fall into. Like, it's hard to put a label on Graves because he's kind of like an AD carry but not really an AD carry. He's kind of like a tank but not really a tank, and he's kind of like a bruiser but not really a bruiser either. He's like a ranged AD carry bruiser jungler. Yeah. But Graves is very good in the early game, very good at controlling the jungle. Like I said, he does fall off a bit later on, but still he's pretty solid at all stages. If you're interested in playing Graves, I'm going to leave this graphic on the screen and just tell you to really apply a lot of pressure in that early game and farm a lot as well. You want to be building a lot of damage on Graves, so if you fall behind, you will feel yourself being a little bit useless. But that's not really a problem for Graves because he kills the jungle very fast, and he also kills the new players very fast as well, so chances are you're not really going to be falling behind when you're playing him. Next jungler on this list is going to be the queen of the jungle, the queen of the Xerxai, specifically Rekkles. Rekkles is one of these jungle champions who is always strong regardless of the meta, and just how strong she is will depend on how strong other champions are in comparison. She'll always be good, it's just how good she is, whether she's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 or number 5. In this patch she's really good because a lot of the other junglers that were really oppressive before have actually gotten nerfed, and this tank meta is actually seeing its resurgence a little bit in the jungle too. The great thing about Rekkles is that she can absolutely destroy the early game because her ganking is fairly solid, but so is her invading and so is her jungle clearing. Like, Rekkles is quite an all-round champion, there isn't really a specific way you have to be playing her, and on top of that as well, she's very simple to play too. Not only does this make it very easy to pick Rekkles up to add her into your arsenal, but I also feel that it means it's really hard to muck up on her. Like, when you're playing games, you'll be quite consistent on Rekkles because there's not much to her. It's not like, say for example, you're playing Elise and you can't land your sonic waves, or you're playing Elise and you can't land your cocoons, you're just having an off game. It's really hard to have an off game when you're playing Rekkles. Her ultimate also means she has a bit of an omnipresence on the map as well. As long as she has a good tunnel network, she can teleport to react to plays wherever they may be. If you're interested in playing Rekkles, I'm going to leave this graphic on the screen as well now for you to have some more information, and generally speaking, when you're playing her, early game you do want to be very aggressive with those ganks. Mid game, to be honest, you just want to be doing much of the same thing, and the later the game goes on, the tankier you get, you'll become more of a knockup bot. So in those team fights, do peel a lot for your carries, or just try and apply a lot of CC, knock up the enemy carries where you can. Next on this list is going to be Olaf. Olaf has seen a bit of resurgence in the jungle because of the new buffed ghosts which happened a few patches ago. Not just that, but also because other junglers are a little bit weaker too. What's so strong about Olaf is that he's one of these champions who's just impossible to play against if you're a low mobility AD carry, which we're actually seeing a lot more of in the current meta. It's not just AD carries of course, but also mid laners as well. We're seeing a lot of these low mobility carries coming into the meta. Ashe is very good, Jhin is very good right now, Victor is very good right now, Twisted Fate. These are all popular champions who don't have a reliable gap closer or a way to escape. What this means is that if you've got a ghost like Olaf has and you can just run at people, it's very hard to get away from Olaf. So Olaf pops ult, he pops his ghost, he runs at someone, and he usually just gets a kill. Even in a team fight when there are loads of people trying to help a carry, Olaf can very easily still take someone down. He is unfortunately though a bit one-dimensional. If you can't take someone down, then you're kind of a bit useless. But it doesn't matter too much because his early game is quite solid. As long as he's got a blue buff, he can spam his axes and he clears very, very fast as well. If you're interested in playing some Olaf, then I'm going to leave this graphic up on the screen right now. Just some tips on playing him. Make sure you don't throw your axe at a target when you're ganking them until you know it's going to line up with their escape path. If you throw it at them and then they're going to run a different direction, you're not going to be able to pick up your axe and you're probably going to lose that kill. Next up on this list, we will have Nidalee. Nidalee is one of these champions who's been like the top apex jungler predator since the whole of Season 6. Nidalee and Kindred were the top 2 junglers for a very long time, and one of the reasons why Nidalee is so strong still despite a lot of nerfs is just the way she plays in solo queue. To be honest, even outside of solo queue she's still really good, but the reason why I think she's so strong specifically in solo queue is because she completely takes the enemy jungler out of the game. If you think about someone like Nunu, who just invades over and over and over, isn't really too useful by himself but makes the enemy jungler really useless, Nidalee is a lot like that, except that she also is very useful too. She clears ridiculously fast, there isn't really an enemy jungler that Nidalee can't kill, and she's just a huge pain to play against and is just really, really oppressive in solo queue. She does fall off a little bit the later the game goes on, and obviously the more people group up and the more tankier people get, she will struggle a little bit, but she more than makes up with it with what she can do in that early game. So some more information on how to play Nidalee, you can take a look right here. Generally speaking guys, you want to be doing a lot of stuff in the early game. If you can't gank that much because she doesn't have any CC and relies a lot on skill shots, then just invade the enemy jungler over and over again. Next up on this list, we're going to have Elise. Elise actually has a lot in common with the champion we just mentioned, Nidalee. Not only is she very good in the early game, but she's also a hot grill that turns into an animal. That by itself should be enough to convince you to play her, but if it's not enough, then you should know that Elise is probably the best early game champion as far as it goes for ganking. A lot of these champions we're mentioning on this list are of course very good at ganking, very good at applying pressure in the early game, but the thing with Elise is that she's probably the best because she has the most variety in her kit. What I mean by that is that Elise pretty much brings everything that you need to a gank just by herself. She has good burst damage and good sustain damage, and she has a hard CC and a gap closer as well. Basically, if you're just looking for some really strong early game ganking, then you really can't go wrong with Elise. She does fall off a little bit as the game goes on, but since the mage rework with the new item updates, she actually can build a lot of AP and transition into quite an effective assassin too, without having to sacrifice her role too much and becoming like a useless glass cannon. But anyway, here's some information on how to play this Elise. And as some general tips on her, of course, you want to be going very aggressive in that early game, and also don't fire your cocoon out when you're at max range. Instead, try to get as close as you can so it reduces the chance of the enemies being able to dodge the cocoon. If you fire it when you're still far away, then yeah, you might be able to land a long range cocoon, but chances are they'll be able to dodge it or jump away or flash or whatever. If instead you can close the gap by rappelling in spider form, or maybe just even walking up to them and applying red buff if you've got it, and then throw out the cocoon, you have a much higher chance of success. The penultimate jungler on this list is going to be the very round fat man Gragas. Now, I love Gragas myself. He's the champion that's kind of taken over my heart from Lee Sin. Not really true because I still love Lee Sin the most, but he's the person that gets me the most elo on my main account at least. The thing I love the most about Gragas, just for me personally, is that he's really, really well rounded, and I'm not just talking about his belly. Like, in my opinion, right now, I really don't think there's another jungler who can just fit as many molds as Gragas can. Like, specifically, Gragas is a very good ganker, but he can also farm the jungle as well if he wants to, and in teamfights, he can initiate really well, but he can also peel and disengage too. He can snowball quite hard and can carry a game if he wants to, but at the same time, if he doesn't manage to do that, then he's not completely screwed, and he can transition into just being a tank and still be very useful. If you're looking for really like unpunishing champions to play in the jungle, then I really do think that you can't get better than with Gragas. And not only, like I say, can he just fit whatever playstyle you want to play him in, he's actually really good at all stages of the game as well. So here's some information on how to play that jungle Gragas if you're interested in it, and just for some tips, if you do want to play aggressive in the early game, feel free to, but I really would recommend just playing a lot of games on him and seeing the kind of playstyle that you like doing. On top of that, you also want to learn how to do the E flash R combo. It's not very hard, you just have to press E and then flash at the end of it to kind of extend the E's range, and then ult someone back into your team. Our final champion on this list, one of the best junglers around right now, it's going to be Hakkar. Like with Olaf, who saw a bit of revival in his play and an increase in his win rate thanks to the buff on Ghost, Hakkar benefited from that, but then also heavily benefited from the change in Triforce recently too. Triforce now got rid of all of the useless stats that Hakkar didn't care about and added 20% CDR onto it. And that's pretty much perfect for Hakkar. He can play around his cooldowns more and just have ridiculous damage. Sheen effects were always just really, really strong on Hakkar because he just always spammed his Q. And now he's got an item that not only gives him that Sheen effect, but also does it in such a way that gives him perfect stats too. But at any rate, Hakkar is one of these champions who can again do pretty much whatever he wants to do. He's someone who can gank a lot if he wants to, but is also very good at farming. He's probably one of the best team fighters on this list too, and he can flank very effectively with his ultimate, and he can just run down the enemy carries and just be a complete nuisance to them, and if he can't 1v1 them, then he at least takes them out of the fight. For some more information on how to play that Hakkar, then there's this graphic on the screen for you now, and just as a general tip for him, don't try to do too much in the early game. He can do some stuff in the early if he wants to, but it's probably where he's at his weakest, so if you do just want to farm a little bit more, play it a bit safer, there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, that just about does it for this list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments, and feel free, of course, to give it a thumbs up if you did like it. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. Another shout out to the Pro Guys people for helping me with the editing of this video. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.